In one of my recent videos, I showed off a framework for D&D-like pact magic in GURPS that is based around a law advantage. But I also have another variant that I use in my games, outsider channeling. While vestige binding was a form of arcane magic that binds an alien entity to your soul, channeling is a form of divine magic that invites an outsider to possess you. There are mechanical and flavor similarities, but there are also differences. First of all, let me tell you about what I am basing it all on. D&D 3.5 had possession and channeling mechanics, but they seem to be quite underdeveloped. The Book of Vile Darkness and Fiendish Codex 1 had rules for demonic possession, where a demon separates its spirit and involuntarily takes over a creature or object, leaving his physical form behind in suspended animation. On the opposite side, we had celestial channeling, as described in the Book of Exalted Deeds. It worked identically, but only if the host voluntarily invited the celestial. The very same book also allowed epic-level characters to channel celestial paragons, the good counterparts of archfiends. There was also a very obscure prestige class, the Solar Channeler, from an adventure module called The Shattered Gates of Slaughterguard. And around that time I was reading GURPS Horror, The Madness Dossier, and thought to myself, what if I take all these possession and channeling mechanics and adapt them to GURPS as a generic outsider channeling subsystem using the law advantage? The result is only vaguely D&D inspired, but I think it looks okay. So let's take a look at it. Channelers are akin to summoners, but instead of summoning an extraplanar creature directly or conjuring a replica of it, they let the outsider take over their body for a time. This voluntary possession erases the channeler's personality for the duration of channeling and transforms the channeler mentally and/or physically. Despite the personality being overwritten, the possessor will still likely go along with the host's agenda, but will almost certainly do so in its own fashion, because many outsiders believe that one approach fits all. The host keeps his skills and most advantages and disadvantages, although some traits override his normal state. Channeling an outsider requires a ritual magic channeling roll, at a bonus if you know its name. The time to channel an outsider stacks. You must take both the time for a skill roll, that is 20 minus skill seconds for ritual magic channeling, and for shapeshifting, that's 10 seconds. Unlike standard alternate form, you do not need to concentrate during the final 10 seconds of the shapeshifting process. After you have succeeded at your roll, you can move and even fight. Channeling an outsider costs 1 FP, and the effect lasts 3 minutes. After that period, extended channeling costs 1 FP every 6 minutes. Your outsider departs if you are rendered unconscious. You can dismiss your outsider by making a will roll and taking a concentrate maneuver. It takes 10 seconds for the outsider to leave your body completely, but you can act during these 10 seconds. Exorcism and such spells as Dispel Possession can end the channeling prematurely. Only living creatures with a soul can channel outsiders. Undead and constructs cannot use these abilities. Though you can only channel one outsider at a time, you can have multiple outsiders available for channeling. As for standard alternate form, a single outsider costs 12 points, plus 90% of the total point value of the advantages, disadvantages and skills granted by the outsider. If you have multiple outsiders, calculate the highest priced outsider and pay for that package. Further outsiders cost 12 points each. By default, the channeling advantage will look like this. The pact limitation requires you to take a minus 10 point disadvantage that will represent a code of conduct of your metaphysical alignment. That depends on the type of outsiders you can channel. Should you transgress, your powers will be instantly revoked, but you can get back in good standing by completing a minor quest. The limited reliable 4 enhancement lets the channeler apply a plus 4 bonus to his channeling roll if he knows the outsider's true name, or a lesser bonus for a less specific name. Each true name is a perk that the caster must research using the rules described under Research on page 13 of permit 114, but usually even a name less specific than the true name can be used to receive a bonus. For more information, see the Other Names sidebar on page 14. The Requires Reaction Roll limitation forces the channeler to make a reaction roll applying all normal reaction modifiers after he conducts his summoning ritual but before the transformation begins. On a reaction of neutral or better, the channeling works normally. A very good reaction gives +1 to the first roll made using the outsider's skills or abilities. An excellent reaction gives +2. On a reaction of poor or worse, the channeling fails. On a reaction of very bad or worse, the channeling fails and the outsider refuses to answer you for 1d hours. You can try to channel the outsider again if you fail to do it due to a bad reaction roll every second if you wish, but the reaction roll is at a cumulative -1 per repeated attempt, as the outsider becomes increasingly annoyed by your requests. To eliminate this penalty, you must go for a full hour without channeling this outsider. You can substitute an influence roll. If you do so, unless the GM feels that it was especially appropriate or inappropriate, success provides the equivalent of a good reaction. You channel specific outsiders, not some random specimens of a particular type. They may get familiar with you and receive penalties or bonuses to their reaction rolls depending on your relationship with them. The Aftermath Indecisive limitation represents the confused state of mind that you have after the outsider departs from your body. Make a self-control roll whenever a choice confronts you, modified downward by the number of alternatives you can see. -2 if there are 2 choices, -3 if there are 3, etc. If you succeed on the first roll, you bring your thoughts in order and do not need to make these rolls anymore until you channel an outsider again. If you fail, you do nothing. Roll again every minute or every second in combat or a similar high-stress situation until you make up your mind, after which you may act normally until the next time you face a decision. If you fail the initial self-control roll, then you have to roll again when you are faced with a decision for the next 10 minutes. Channelers channel specific outsiders, not typical representatives of an outsider species. Being specific and unique individuals, these outsiders can vary significantly, and they can form their own opinions about the channeler, imposing bonuses or penalties to reaction rolls. Outsiders usually have many abilities that cost quite a lot, so it is rare for a channeler to channel an outsider fully. For example, a channeler channels Miriel, an astral diva that served as a guardian of a temple of the Shining One in the Dwarven Kingdom. When the channeler buys his channeling ability, he chooses that he will only channel Miriel's personality and combat skills, because he is short on points. Later on, after he has gained several character points, he decides to improve the ability by including energy resistance in the channel template. As you can see, this subsystem is mechanically complex, but if you want to make it more simple, you can remove some of the limitations, such as Aftermath or the name thing. Channeling also requires more work both for the player and the GM. After all, the GM has to come up with outsiders, possibly with the player's input. The GM might also want to provide the players with opportunities to meet new outsiders. The player, however, is encouraged to interact with the game world in an unusual way, and also will have to roleplay different personalities. I have had one player playing a channeler in my game, and it seemed that he was enjoying the process. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.